This is Brownie's Podcast!
Welcome to Brownie's Podcast.
Oh, jeez.
That was rough. Jeez.
What is that?
It might sound a little bit different. Old mate Dean is still out from the Logies, so this is obviously
Well, I remember
being recorded.
last year he had this episode as well. He missed his flight from Brisbane to
I
Bali,
did too.
remember?
No, Sydney to Brisbane to Bali, and the flight got cancelled in Brisbane. He got to Brisbane. It got cancelled out of Brisbane to Bali. Then he had to fly back to Melbourne
That's right. It was an
to get his
absolute
flight to Bali.
So he's the pin completely today, has he?
Well, to give context, Dino, he's one of Pang's riders.
Yeah, he is.
Sam
he is.
Pang did a magnificent job again, our boy, hosting the Logies
He
last
did.
night.
And Daryl Summers, bitch.
Daryl Summers' bitch,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah,
he was
bar
too,
bitch.
up into the room.
I got a photo from Dean at about 5:30 in the morning,
no.
and he wasn't looking particularly fresh, so fair to say that he's had the morning off just to recover and get himself back in the right
Did they
headspace.
end up in Daryl's room again?
Mate, I saw them in a lift. Sam, Jack Charles, who's here on a Nova,
Yes.
and Dean, and that was about 5:15, and neither of them was holding a beer the wrong way up.
Yeah,
which was a good
and
sign.
one of them had Aussie ostrich in some sort of weird sexual manoeuvre.
Aussie ostrich. It was a. What about? It was a good monologue by Pang. He nailed it again. I love. He does not care about Channel 7. And Channel 7 were hosting. It was on the net. It was on Channel 7 Network last night. The Logies and
First time in a few years.
First time in a few years. I love the reference he made. Obviously, all the legal issues and the defamation case that all the channels had. But he said, I feel very secure in the knowledge that Channel 7 will represent me well in any defamation case. They're not actually paying me for tonight, but they're actually paying my whole year's rent, and which is great. Because then they'll know my address so they can send the Thai masseuse. Referring to, I think, some shady stuff going on at Spotlight, just some inducements when they were trying to get guests over the line, Brown Dog, throughout the year. But that was pretty good.
Just like Ricky Gervais when he did the Oscars, I like the fact that no one is safe. You know, if you're sitting there in the crowd,
Yes.
you know you might get picked off. And, I mean, it was low-hanging fruit, but I loved what he had to say about Ray Gunn.
Congratulations to the Nine Network who've just brought us 2 spectacular weeks of Olympic sport from Paris. And I'd like to acknowledge our youngest ever gold medalist, 14-year-old skateboarder Arissa
How
Drew.
good was that?
Fantastic.
Yes. That was great.
Now, as a reward, her parents promised her a pet duck. Meanwhile, Ray Gunn's parents have promised to get her breakdancing lessons.
It's low-hanging fruit, right? But I don't think there'd be anyone out there that wouldn't smile or laugh at that.
Absolutely. And they got Ray Gunn on to introduce one of the awards, I think it was. So that was nice.
Well,
got a nice
what
round
was,
of
I must
applause.
say, a little bit pov is that they had all these international celebrities and stuff that were sending videos, and they were from Cameo. No, you can't be paying us.
What?
Yeah, they're not just doing it for the love of the Logies.
Well, because Pang did an introduction where he's sitting in his dressing room before it, and Stephen Fry had sent a video. So are you telling me Stephen Fry had sent advice as to how to cope with these second Logies? Are you telling me that was off camera?
I'd just like to do a little investigation as to how some of those celebrity appearances came to be. That's
You're
all. That's
kidding.
all I'll say.
You're
that's all
kidding.
That's all I'll say.
Celebrity appearances made via Cameo for the Logies this year. Jesus, shows how well we're going.
Mate, pathetically.
Wait, geez, how's the voice on Dog? Have you heard that?
Hey,
Mate,
what's happened, Dog?
I think just a over-strenuous weekend. I obviously
Really?
did the AFL game yesterday.
You
Geez,
did
they
too.
worked me hard.
They did.
Oh, mate, I was interviewing Jack Ginnivan and Tommy Lynch pre-game. Then I had Ariane Titmus, obviously the golden girl of Australian.
Yeah. Arnie,
Australian-
your mate, who had you
My
as the
friend.
top 5 Hawthorn
Yes.
player of all time.
I don't think I'm still in the top 5.
Oh, is that right?
Well, she mentioned Mitch Lewis, that she loves.
Yeah.
Jack Ginnivan, which she loves, and Nick Watson.
Ooh,
So I
no,
reckon
you've
that
still got Lewis covered.
Unless-
You've got the Wizard covered.
Yeah,
Ginnivan's had a good year.
unless Mitchell, Hodge, and Franklin has snuck out, I might have ducked down that ladder a little bit. But great to see. I personally feel like just overuse injury.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Were you doing any research last night? Were you out and about networking? You know, because you are the man that has his ear to the ground more than any man in this game, in this caper.
Yeah, I was. Nothing goes on in this town without the dog having some sort of influence on it.
Yeah.
Look, I was having a deep dive and look at Richmond's list, right? And Adam Muse, it's a tough job taking over from
a
Damien
poison
Hardwick.
chalice.
It is, isn't it? Because he's got 3 or 4 years of just pure heartache, really. He's got to move on some really accomplished senior players. He's got to rebuild that premiership list. Dusty's already retired. I think Dylan Grimes is about to announce his retirement if he hasn't already. Then you've got Liam Baker, who's the heart and soul of that footy club. He's going west, isn't he? We all know that.
Oh, well, it's more. Who's more likely? Who's the absolute definite? If you could give me one definite as to leaving the club out of the big names, Bolton, Baker, or Rioli?
I'm going to say all 3.
All 3.
Yep.
Definites. Gone
Definites
from Richmond.
Liam Baker going back to Perth.
Yes.
I think Daniel Rioli will find his way to the Gold Coast.
Yes.
And I'm not sure that they would be overly upset if Shea Bolton left.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, Shea Bolton, based on...
He's a very good footballer. Played on Hardwick yesterday. Kicked 3.
Yeah.
Won that battle. One of the few players on the ground that won that battle. But I just think that...
But a multi-position player, an excitement machine, someone that's got the... could have a similar capability, not capabilities, but excitement and fire starting as a Nick Dacos, say. Why would you let a player like that go?
It's a funny one, isn't it? Because he's a very good player, but I just think that some of the senior players think he's a bit selfish.
Really? Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, I suppose he is an individual type player, isn't he? So
Very, very rarely do you see him give the first give. He's in at the centre, bounces a lot at the expense of, they've got Hopper, Taranto, Prestia, like some really accomplished players in there.
Interesting. Bro, you're the trade man. What would you get? What's his value?
Oh, that's going to be 2 first-round picks, probably inside 15. And Freo Freo have them too, and they would be willing to give them in that. I would say if they get Baker and Bolton, look for them to charge up the ladder next year. That's exactly what they need. Someone to replace Michael Walters, who's kind of coming to the end and doesn't have the impact that he used to. Bolton is the perfect player for them, and they will give 2 first-round picks for him.
Bolton alone, 2 top 15
I'd
picks.
say
Guarantee it.
First round and second round.
No, it'll be 2 first-rounders. He's got 4 years to go on a contract, and it will take a lot to get him out of there. It'll be done.
There's just going to be mass changes at Richmond, I think.
Yeah, I think
Has
so.
to be. Two wins. They were
They're a long way
competitive
back.
for a couple
Yeah.
of quarters, but you look at the scoreboard, they end up losing by 60-plus points. And in periods of that game, non-competitive. Their first quarter, like after what they dished up last week with 27 tackles, you look for a response, right? 9 goals to the Hawks, which is the highest scoring quarter of the year by any club. Not acceptable.
And it was ill-advised, the trade for Taranto and
Yes.
Hopper especially. Taranto's been serviceable. Hopper has really struggled now. I think he's got a pretty crook knee, so I'm not sure about his longevity. What about the showdown? Jeez.
Jeez, there was plenty of fire and spice about it. There was shades of Byron Pickett on Red Biglands.
Yes, there was
hit.
too. Yes, yeah. Byron Pickett's name's been mentioned a bit after this game. What did you think, Broads, as a Port Adelaide supporter, knowing full well now your best player won't be there for the remainder of the season?
Yeah, he's going to get at least 5, I reckon, which will see him out of the finals.
Can
And
Port Adelaide still win the premiership, the premiership, without Dan Houston?
they can. We've got a number of good users in the back half that can get us out of that. But, geez, it was, as you said, shades of old. That was a proper hit. And I know Dan, he's a good man, and he wouldn't have tried to obviously knock him out. It's the second motion, too. It's the hitting the head on the deck that probably knocked him out more so than the actual hit. But
Well, it might have been because he was asleep, was he? Before he hit the deck.
But yeah, it doesn't matter. Unfortunately, he's obviously hit him and he's hit him hard, and it's taken out the best player too. So which sparked the controversy. Everyone was talking about it.
Will
whether
they
there
be
should
going
red
for
game.
the character? Will they be going for the good character reference? Not to get off, but just to minimise
Charlie
by
Cameron
week.
excuse.
No,
Just
mate, it's
Charlie
the
Cameron
Bashahuli. That was the original Bashahuli.
I reckon they'll give him an opportunity
Yeah.
to play in the grand final.
So 4 weeks.
yeah.
So if you give him
based,
4 weeks...
based on the Charlie Cameron Bashahuli defence.
I'm a good fella.
Yeah.
I love the. I
Well,
love
I don't
that
think Dan would have
defence.
been suspended before, has he?
Nah, I don't think he's ever been cited.
Ball
Yeah.
player. Yeah, purely ball player. I think 4 weeks would be appropriate, and you give him the chance to play in the grand final should they make it and lose their first final. 5, 6, 7, excessive. But he's in the best 3 players for Port Adelaide. Butters
Butters
Horn
probably.
Francis, and then Houston.
Rosie there. I tell you,
I've got him above Rosie. Yeah, in terms
he's
of
bloody
just the
good player.
importance.
The one thing about they are the sleepers a little bit, Port Adelaide, and a lot of people haven't paid much attention to them, but they are second. They've got a gun midfield. So they're going to get, and you need a gun midfield. You need to be able to win contests to win finals. They're going to be able to get plenty of territory. So, that goes a long way towards winning those big finals. So they'll be one to watch. But I think we agree on that. What about, I know we hang shit on Port Adelaide supporters, Brown Dog, about, stealing cars and criminal convictions and having no teeth and all that sort of stuff. But Josh Rochelle taking it to another level, and he signalled to the crowd they've got no teeth after kicking a goal.
That was astonishing. Absolutely astonishing.
And Kane Corns didn't miss him. I don't know if any watched the volcano, which I love. I thought he was absolutely spot on. We love theatre. We want bums on seats. We know what the showdown means to the state of South Australia. But if you're going to do that and you're going to say these things, you've got to back it up with performance, right? He kicks that great goal, runs to the crowd and points to his teeth. I love that theatre, right? But when he pulls out of another contest, right?
He's a recidivist.
Yeah,
great
nice
word for it. Thank you.
Yeah, recidivist.
Welcome.
And that's something you don't want to be a recidivist of.
Oh, absolutely not. You want to be a recidivist for success.
Yes, I
you know
like
what I mean?
That. Well, imagine though, and we're pretty easy on players now pulling out.
Too
because
easy.
of the whole concussion thing now and players taking their eyes off the ball. We do, as commentators, dance around it a little bit because I suppose we feel the responsibility of all this concussion debate and putting players under pressure. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, Josh Rochelle would be nearly out of the game. He would have been slaughtered that hard by the media and ex-players. Do you agree with that or not?
No, it is.
Absolutely.
Commentators might go a little bit easier on players, but the eye and every player and every coach and every supporter that loves this game of ours that watches it, they know in their heart of hearts.
That's a great point. Lethal, our old coach Lee Matthews used to say, that little man in the back of the stand, when he goes home, what does he say about your game and about your team? That little man sitting in the back of the stand, you'll never know him, you'll never see him, but he's always there.
And I like Josh Rochelle. He kicked that match-winning goal against Essendon a couple of weeks earlier. Fantastic, right? But if you're going to talk about your greatest rival on the biggest stage outside of finals, right, about their teeth and everything like that, you got to put your head over the pill. When you have that opportunity.
There was some truth about the teeth, though. Like, God, no, it was good. Wasted seasons for Essendon, Adelaide and the Gold Coast, Dog.
I think that the greatest disappointment since the split rounds has been the Gold Coast by a country mile. Again, they put themselves in a position after their back-to-back Darwin trips to play finals, if not top four, right? And the wheels fell off again. After that, Essendon have been a massive failure, sitting second on the ladder in the first 10 or 12 weeks of the season. And just the manner in which they've lost has been really embarrassing. Maybe they overperformed early, but that became their expectation, JB.
It was similar to last year, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, Meek is,
Meek,
and I would have loved Scotty to have given Heppel a farewell game.
Yeah.
I'm big on integrity selection, but you can't tell me that Dyson Heppel wasn't better than 5 or 6, 7 of the players that dished up their on Friday night.
There wasn't much difference between 5 or 6 guys there, and Dyson Heppel's played most of the season. So, yeah, I didn't understand that call, and I understand where Brad's coming from. Lee had a bit of that about him, but I just think in an occasion like that, and you try, the spiritual leader, try and get a bit of an uplift out of your team that's been struggling, I think it would have been a good move to play. And I think they would have got great energy. To me, it seemed like there was a flatness about the stadium and then a flatness, obviously, about the Essendon performance because of that.
Well, Sam Wiedemann's not going to be there next year, so why play him in round 23, right? When you've got your beloved captain or ex-captain who is in the stands not getting a game. You know what I mean? Like, it would have, not that coaches do this at the selection table, but it would have got 5 or 6 more thousand, into Marvel Stadium.
Yeah.
And
created a good vibe around the
locker
room.
He would have performed admirably,
Yeah, no, it's not like he'd been terrible. So I think Gold Coast, quite a few people have mentioned me. Obviously, I spent a bit of time up in the Gold Coast, and quite a few people recently have been just saying, well, what has Gold Coast done? How have they improved this year? What's been the difference between Damien Harvick and Stuart Dew? So, because there's a great footy community up there and a growing footy community, I think there's a bit of frustration up there. And so when Dimmer says they've got 80% of the premiership list already there at the start of the year, no, I think that's wrong. they've got a fair bit of work to do on that list. So,
Yeah.
especially those guys around the periphery, around the edges, they certainly need to improve that list. So,
Yeah, their wheels haven't fallen off. It's their training wheels that have come off, JB, because they haven't deserved to have
full
their
wheel
actual wheels.
status. Yeah, no, that's right. The Crows been disappointing as well. So, Brisbane, did we drop the World Cup like Herschel Gibbs did all those years ago in that World Cup? He dropped Steve Waugh. Steve Waugh went on to score the winning runs. Australia went on to win the World Cup. Did Brisbane drop the cup?
And that went on to change Herschel Gibbs' life, because not only did he drop the World Cup, right, he then went on and took bribes with Hansi Cronje, which sent him down a path
right. Yeah,
of
it's a good
destruction to the whole nation.
Oh, that led to it, did it?
Yeah, I thought. Well, do you know what? I think it did.
We're not saying Fags is going to start taking bribes and all that sort of stuff, eh? Jesus.
All of a sudden, he's not a World Cup champion anymore. So you've got to find $1 elsewhere.
Mate,
But
they were 3 goals up with not long to play, and they players missed critical goals in the second half, so it was bloody disappointing. And now you're not going to finish top 4, because what odds would you give West Coast to beating Geelong after West Coast's embarrassing display yesterday?
0.
Beating Geelong at Geelong, which needs to happen, and Brisbane have to win, obviously, for Brisbane to finish top 4. So, yeah, that's disappointing. As we know, it's bloody nearly impossible to win from top 4. If there's going to be a year that it happens, could be this year, because we've seen so many upsets and turnarounds, but still, for an interstate club to win it from outside the top 4, nigh on impossible.
we saw the emergence, and he's been knocking on the door for a year, 18 months, but the emergence of a superstar. And he put it all together yesterday. Sam Darcy.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't he unbelievable?
Okay, I've got one for you. Here's one for you.
7 goals.
Same draft as Nick Dacos, 2021.
Yep.
So both father-sons. Pick 2 for Darcy, pick 4 for Dacos. You have a redo of that.
Yep.
Or give it the benefit of 2 or 3 years, because key position players take time to develop.
And he's had a broken jaw, and he's a bit gangling growing into his body.
That's right. You still take Dacos
Every day of the week, mate. Nick, it was great. It's a great point, because Nick Dacos played arguably one of his better games for the Pies on the weekend.
In the second quarter, he did.
Yeah, like he single-handedly just
he dragged them in, because they were 5 goals down.
Yeah. So, in terms of numbers, like, he didn't have 40, but he had 25 and kicked 2 and was really important. And then Darcy bobs up against North. I get it, right?
Coleman
to
got
kick
injured
7.
early.
But both different players. One's a key forward, one's a mid. Sam Darcy's going to be something special.
But a key forward is valued at the highest in the game.
True.
Any key forward, because obviously they're just hard to find. And now he's a ruckman as well, so a dual position player on top of that. Probably will become the highest paid player in the game in 2, 3, 4 years' time, because of that dual position status and his ability. I'm impressed with how strong he is for a skinny guy, but clear cut for you, Dacos over Sam Darcy, with the benefit of time.
Darcy will have more impact on the games in which he plays, but midfielders are more important, because they're going to be able to put 2 men, they're going to be able to block for Darcy, they'll be able to remove him from the equation in a game. You know what? If the ball's not coming in perfectly, Darcy's going to be in stride. Okay. Whereas Dacos can burst out of the middle, take the piss, run away from... When he ran away from 2 players, I was like, brilliant. That man is lightning quick.
And he's already won Collingwood a premiership, which
Probably
Darcy hasn't done
won
yet.
The Brownlow
Maybe
last
a Brownlow medal. He might win a couple of Brownlows, but isn't St Kilda... This has got me buggered, right? I've watched a lot of St Kilda this year. Why can they do what they did on the weekend, right? Kick 16 goals, 100 points, free-flowing ball movement, outstanding, and other weeks dish up long, slow, down the line, 39-point performances. It makes no sense, because...
Chris Scott referred to them as the Harlem Globetrotters after half-time.
When they want to keep the ball in motion and pull levers and come from behind to beat Sydney, they can do it. So why doesn't Rossi let them do it? And I think the fact that King got injured and all of a sudden they went, oh my God, where are we going to find our goals now? They're a much more dangerous side
Absolutely.
now.
It's made them more unpredictable. It's a very good point you make, because they've actually been able to move the ball pretty well last year and this year. They weren't able to execute going inside 50, so maybe now it's made them more unpredictable.
Could be charming.
Spread the defence. Yeah, good see.
Goes okay.
It's been fantastic. Caminiti got injured, but the kid, Wilson's a star.
He Garcia's going to be a good player.
Yeah, so there's some good young players there. They've still got to upgrade their midfield, no question about it, but it probably, to me, magnifies the issues for Geelong more so. Their midfield gets cleaned up. with a very vanilla St Kilda midfield, let's be honest, after half time, for the first time we've seen Liam Stocker go to Tom Stewart. Tom Stewart was tagged for the first time in his midfield career, Tom Stewart. He started getting tagged as a forward, and they took him out of business, did the job. So that'll be interesting to watch now. Teams coming up against Geelong, I think they will follow Ross Lyon's strategy against Tom Stewart.
We're around 23 now, right? So everyone starts talking about the All-Australian side, okay? Now, right as we speak, with one game to go, who's the All-Australian ruckman? Because I've got Tristan Cherry.
I love him.
Mate, it is one of the most remarkable stories. He was not even getting a game last year. Do you know what I mean?
Behind Old Man Goldie.
Yeah, and like, yes, Maxi Gawn started the year off fantastically. Brody Grundy's first 12 weeks were brilliant.
He's trained
Since
off, though.
then, I reckon it's Rowan Marshall or
Marshall was awesome.
or Tristan Cherry.
I think Max Gawn's right up there. I think Oscar McInerney was going well. He's just gone off a little bit the last couple of weeks. Darcy Cameron's forced his way back into contention, forced his way into contention.
I think it's pretty easy to be an All-Australian ruckman. There's only 18 of them getting around. It's just too easy.
Nothing's easy, Brody.
If you're a midfielder, there's 50 of you to pick from, and you've got to be in the top 5. And no one cares about ruckman as long as you tap it down.
Come on.
Mate, honestly.
We don't
rubbish.
endorse that rubbish comment that you just made on this podcast.
I saw Big Shane Mumford. GWS had a beer of them up there on
Sausage.
Saturday night. Big sausage.
Oh, I love sausage.
My Olivia was doing one-on-ones with him.
Oh, I love sausage.
After the game, all the GWS kids, family kids were floating around.
How is the rig on sausage these days?
Mate, he's in magnificent
Is he?
condition.
Yeah.
Right, I've got a little surprise for us after the break.
All right,
Looking forward to it.
going to ads. We'll be back. This is a big interview, and I'm looking forward to it. We're celebrating just over 30 years of something astonishing. Welcome back. It's Brownie's podcast. Jonathan Brown, Campbell
Doesn't
Brown.
hit the same, mate.
Oh,
I'm
what do
going
you
to
want me
say,
to do?
I know Dino's not here, and it's his own fault, but it doesn't hit the same.
I'll try it again. Ready? Welcome back. It's Brownie's podcast. It's Jonathan Brown, and it is the two-club, one-time All-Australian, the premiership player, Campbell Brown.
Bit a little bit better, but it just doesn't hit the same.
Hey, both best-selling authors.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe not both.
Oh,
One
Childish
of us is a
Dino.
best-selling author. But introducing us, I've got a special guest on the line coming up because this weekend was the 30-year anniversary of the Men for All Seasons calendar.
Is that right?
From the inception of the Men for All Seasons calendar. It hasn't been in since 2007, but Brown Dog, our man here, Brown Dog, was one of the stars. One of the centrefolds. What month?
03, I reckon it was July.
July. Mr.
Yeah, holding the
July.
hay bale.
Holding the hay bale. Just real farm
Shirtless.
country
Good
boy,
boy.
even though he grew up in Peppermint Grove beside Alan Bond and
who else was
Laurie
in-
Connell. Laurie Connell.
who else was in the calendar with you?
Trent Crode, I think, was on the front, and he had a Gemini tattoo, which he then tattooed over with the Kiwi fern. Remember? I reckon Daniel Gian Syracusa.
Oh, good-looking man.
Steve Armstrong.
Yes,
Remember him?
Hot field.
Steve
Cox
from
Plate Field.
West Coast Eagles.
What were you doing there?
Clint Showbiz Bizzle.
Oh, Biz.
Yeah, the Biz
With
man
the
was in there.
With the blonde tips.
Kent Kingsley.
Oh,
Ken
Jesus.
Kingsley.
Well, I'll tell you what, bring you up those names. We're going to get the
Matthew
photographer.
Robbins?
Matthew Robbins. We're going to get the photographer on the phone, the
No.
man that's behind it all. Tony Ryan.
I remember Tone. He had to do some wonderful things around my appendage. I had hay fever too back in the day.
Tony.
Yeah.
Welcome to Brownie's podcast, Tone. It is Jonathan Brown, Campbell Brown, and Brody Big Fella.
How are you, Tony?
It's an honour.
Yeah, good, thanks, guys. Good.
Well, it's fantastic. I read Fiona Byrne's article over the weekend in the Herald Sun, Tone, and it was magnificent just to go back through for a trip down memory lane because it is the 30-year anniversary of the Men for All Seasons calendar, and you are the man that was chartered with making these old blokes look good.
We weren't old back then.
You're right.
Brownie was very young then.
I was 19 years of age. I remember I was just a very shy young man out of Scotch College. Didn't really know my way around a camera. You made me feel at home, but I must admit that the holding the hay bale, you know, for a city slicker, it didn't sit well with me. But the photo came up okay.
Yeah, I can't remember. It's that long ago, Campbell. I can't remember why we chose the hay bale, but it does look good. Like the shop's great.
Did you ask him about his background? Because the kid did grow up in Peppermint Grove beside Alan Bond, Laurie Connell, Kerry Stokes. So a long way from a farm. He wouldn't have been able to draw a hay bale if you asked him to.
Well, luckily we didn't go to a farm. It was just local here in Northcote, so he wouldn't have felt too bad.
Yeah, where was he on the list? Because no doubt you would have had a bit of a list. Everyone has your definites you want to get in tone, and obviously not everyone's going to say good day. Obviously, there might have been some financial inducements.
No, it was free. Everyone did it for free.
Let's say there's 12,
I think.
No, you didn't, Campbell.
He definitely didn't do it for free. We know there's 12 photos because of 12 months of you, of course, being calendar.
There's actually 13, Brownie, because the first of the year of release, you put 4 months. You put one photo for the 4 months of the year of release, and then 12 for the next year, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. So where was he in the list?
I've got the leading vote getters in the Brownlow Medal of 2003. Let's have a look through and see how many of them feature in the calendar, shall we? All right, Nathan Buckley. Nah, didn't see him there, obviously. Adam Goods.
Goods, he wasn't part of the process.
Didn't see the Rashudo. Didn't see him in there.
We couldn't fit Rue in.
Gavin Wanganeen. Didn't see. No Wangers.
Good-looking guy, though.
Peter Bell. No, Peter Bell.
Too short for the camera.
Andrew McLeod. No, Andrew McLeod to mention of. No, James
He would have
Hurd.
been good, though, Brownie, I reckon, in the cloud.
Bungie would have been sensational.
So none of them, actually.
No, they weren't part of that because they were trying to choose the best 13 or 14 looking blokes in the AFL. So that is why I was chosen. And
so where do you reckon he was in the order, though, Tone? Like, was he 30, 40s, 50th?
No, I think Brownie was very lean, as you can see in his photo back in those days. Are you still lean, Brownie?
No, I don't have the same physique, unfortunately. No, I'd like to be photoshopped on my body back then.
I actually saw you with the wife and kids at the light show in there a few weeks ago.
Yes, I took the kids down there. It was magnificent, wasn't it?
It was a good thing. I was going to come up and have a chat. I didn't know if you'd remember me, though.
Of course I would. Yeah, absolutely. You never forget something like that. No, look, I sense a little bit of jealousy here from John O'Brien. Like, he obviously has got all the accolades. He's got the Coleman medals, the premierships.
Yeah, where was the phone call, Tone?
But the one thing that's always frustrated him is he never did a men for all seasons.
Well, were you around in those days, John?
I was doing some of my best work. Mind you, I might have been busy in September. Maybe some of those photos were in September.
We used Bossy in one of them.
Bossy, you got the old red. I was going to say I tossed up a few ideas to bring it back. We could have a redheads version.
Yeah.
Don't you reckon? Lance Whitnell.
Yes.
Michael Voss.
Yeah, the pink pig, Cameron Ling.
Pink pig, get Linger involved. One thing I've got to say, Tone, what do you think of the current crop? I've gone through some of the names like this: Bailey Smith, Harley Reid, Nick Dacos, Isaac Heaney,
Pat Lipinski,
Archie Perkins, Pat Lipinski, but I don't feel like there's the pin-up boys that there was of yesteryear.
Oh, look, I reckon, because I do want to do a new one and tie it in with the mental health side of things, but I reckon that even back in those days, Cooter, when we used Cooter, no one knew who Cooter was, even the second.
Yeah.
I reckon we'd get today's guys, and you'd find we'd pick some guys out that others may not have recognised, and they'd become pretty big.
Now he's running for Lord Mayor, Cooter, so, we've got him off the scrap heap.
Yeah, I don't think Cooter likes finishing footy. He needs things to keep him occupied.
Well, let's get behind this process and get a men for all seasons back, because I know that all the ladies liked it. A lot of men liked it too in this world that we live in.
That's right.
I think the players would absolutely jump at the opportunity to get their shirts off, get their rigs out, and do it for a good cause like mental health.
Look, I think so. There's a guy off the internet, Coach Cole or something. I met him
Coach
the
Cole.
other day, and he's keen to try and get something up.
We've got to mix it up, though, not just with glamours. We need a couple of rugged boys in there. Like Shane Mumford we've just spoken about.
Yeah.
You need to get Mummy.
Mitch McGovern.
Mitch come on, give me a spell. I suppose we need current players, don't we? So we need to find sprinkle a couple of rugged boys through there.
Yeah, Jack Inovan, he'd be in there.
we had rugby in one of the years. Like we had Mark McGaw and Ian Roberts. So we put 5 rugby players into one of the year's calendars.
Willie Rioli?
Willie Rioli, yes.
I tell you what, we had the launch night at Frostbites down there on Chapel Street. It was split round about July 2003, and my word, was it a little bit of fun.
Did you like the other calendar models? Did you, Brownie?
I had a very good night.
Did you now?
Tony,
Care to elaborate?
No, I don't want to incriminate myself.
He was doing his own doing his
Just
own
leave it there,
calendar.
Tony, thank you very much for joining us, mate. Appreciate it.
No worries, Brady.
Thanks,
guys.
Tone.
Thanks, Tone.
Oh, there you go. 21 years. So I would have been 19 years of age. And I remember sitting down with Richie Vandenberg, who'd done it the previous year. Because as a young bloke, you don't want to ruffle feathers, right? No. You don't want to think you're getting too far ahead of yourself. I certainly never looked at myself as a pin-up boy of the competition. Don't get me wrong. Abs are steel. No doubt about that. But he said, look, just back it up on field with your performance. And
the opposite of Josh Rosselli.
Correct. Yeah. I needed to do the opposite of Josh Rosselli.
And did you back it up? Well, I think you did.
I did.
You can't be accused of that.
Never.
Because you just built throughout your career there at Hawthorn.
Well, it helped when you didn't need to, get your hands on the footy, so...
Just punch. How long did you do the photo shoot for?
It took a couple of hours. Yeah, 3 or 4 hours.
Oiled up?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it must have been pre-Bunny. There's no oil around when Bunny came.
If I had my time again, I'd only just started to get a hairy chest. But back in those days, you didn't actually ever trim down. Now everyone trims, like I'm trimmed. Yeah, I left a bit of hair on the chest too, which some say is masculine. But
absolutely.
Right now, with my current mindset, I would have trimmed it down.
Who's your number one centrefold this year? So the Shane Crawford of yesteryear. So Crawford's always probably the greatest sex singer, wasn't he? Most recognisable. Who's numero uno this year in the current crop?
In terms of profile and looks and everything, I think it's Jack Ginnivan. I think he's the guy that...
Not Nick Dacos?
Beautiful looking man.
Yeah, so you put Ginnivan just because he's maybe got that edginess.
He's got that edge. And women we already know flock to him because of his online presence. So he would be, if I was starting up the Men for All Seasons 2025... He'd be one of the guys I'd be chasing for the front cover.
Bailey Smith sort of hasn't played much
he's
lately.
got abs on abs, doesn't he? He's got an 8-pack. Not something I feel overly comfortable talking about.
I've got a smoky for you. Jack Steele.
Yeah.
Jack Steele's he's a good-looking fella. He's got a good rig on him. He's a captain of a footy club. Maybe not playing for the biggest footy club, though.
I don't know how many women listeners we have on Brownie's podcast. I don't reckon we've got a great deal.
Yeah.
So...
Well, this is growing it. We need more of this conversation. It's just growing out a little bit.
I certainly feel uncomfortable discussing this, but you know what? Be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Sam Draper?
Max Gorn would be great.
Big Maxi?
Big Maxi. The rig's probably not, where it needs to be.
I feel like, though, Maxi, married, kids, unattainable, sort of beyond reach for girls.
I found out that he's married the sister of James Frawley's wife. Does that make sense to you?
Thanks for that. Oh, yeah. I'm glad we stopped down for that.
That's all.
So what does that make him to James Frawley?
They're brothers-in-law.
Brothers-in-law, yeah. Very good. Glad we worked that out. Well, just very good. Looking forward to that. We'll come back after the break, Broads, and we'll talk about. We'll wrap up the Logies last night.
Welcome back. It's Brownie's podcast with the great Jonathan Brown and Campbell.
I tell you what, how's he going out, man? Is he going any good in and out of these outros?
Ordinary.
Intros?
It's good to just hear you speaking these days. You're not muted out of the conversation.
I control my own microphone here, which is really good.
Yeah, it is too. What about last night? So Logies is last night. Larry Emder. Did you pick that at all?
40 years in the industry.
40 years in there. Well deserved. One of the nicest guys in the industry. He's done everything.
Oh, has he what?
Bros, did you pick that?
Well, I had an inkling that might be going that way. When I heard that a lot of the other stars weren't doing media, I had a sneaking suspicion that Larry might be the one that wins.
So Broads might have had a couple of bucks on him.
Do you have a bet?
Listen, listen. I'm a good gambler, and sometimes I gamble on things that I care about. And
You
the
use your
Logies have-
poetic license as a producer to work out who you were going to speak to the
No,
day after.
that would be insider trading.
Process of elimination, bro. It's just gone through and said who's up for interviews the next day. But Larry Emner, I love him. Actually, it takes me back to a couple of years ago, Brown Dog. Remember I was doing that hit show, Best on Ground?
Yeah, of course I do. It was a magnificent 5 or 6 shows.
No, it lasted a whole year, but we got through it. But once, the comedian, who's a magnificent comedian, who's the warm-up man, I can't remember. What's his...
I can't remember his
Oh, here we go. I can't help you out with
It's not
it.
Benny. Oh, jeez, I should have thought of this before.
He'll be wrapped if he listens
Yeah.
to this.
Yeah, he's a ripping bloke and a funny
Must
man.
be, yeah.
He's the best warm-up man in the caper.
We're not moving on until you get his name.
No,
Here we
it's
go.
He's a memorable folk, isn't he?
I'm going to have to text Chrissy because Chrissy knows. Anyway, he didn't turn up.
Yeah, what was his name?
Hey, he or they in this current world, they or them didn't turn up, Round Dog. So they said to me, "Big fella, can you go up and go out the back and warm the crowd up in the green room?"
Do you want a clue as to who it is? I know who it is. Do you want a clue as to who it is?
Ben.
Yep.
Ben. But it's like Ronaldo,
Yeah, only
Maradona.
has the one
they only
name.
have the one
Yeah,
name.
just Benjamin. Yeah.
Ben, the warm-up guy. He's more than that. He's a great comedian. Full name, please, bro.
You got to give his full name now.
Because he's a comedian. People want to buy tickets to go and see him now. Obviously,
just
I'm
type
promoting.
in Benny into the comedy festival. You think?
Netanyahu.
Quick.
I can't remember. No.
Yeah,
I remember
well,
it was
see,
Ben.
you can't remember. Anyway, so I go out the back. I'm thinking, am I going to warm him up? So I thought I'll hit him right between the eyes. And there's a few older ladies there. And I thought I'm going to roll with a Larry Emner joke. Now, of course, remember back in the day, Larry Emner used to host The Price is
He
Right.
certainly did.
And they played a great game, more or less, where they give you a figure and of a prize.
Yep.
And the contestant just simply has to guess whether the real prize total is higher or lower.
Yeah, it's like me doing the over and unders in the footy betting
Exactly
each week.
right.
Yeah.
So it's easy. So, but I've come straight in and go, "Hi guys, looking forward to the show. Yeah, a little bit of a sad show though tonight because Larry Emner's just passed away.
I know.
And a few old ladies are there, and you could see the shock in their eyes. And I go, "Yeah, it's a real shame. How old do you reckon he was?" And someone's yelled out, 47. I said, "Higher." Then someone said 54. I said, "Lower." Well, mate, these 3 old girls in the front row, they're in tears. Oh my God, Larry Emner's passed away. So then I've had to backtrack it. I've had to wheel it back the joke. So, no, that was only a joke. Larry's still alive. He's alive and well, and clearly he is because he won the Gold Lady last night. So
Great
well
show.
done.
Between 93 and 98, that show was it. And if I had to say a gag, right, this is what I would go to. What's the biggest city in America?
Biggest city in America, New
LA.
York.
Obesity. Hey, he's nearly 60, right? He's been in the industry for 40 years and he's finally got gold. Finally.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
effort of
it's-
persistence. Failure cannot cope with perseverance, as Lethal used to say.
Do you want to pay tribute to your favourite comedian who helped warm up on Best on Ground?
Benny.
Hill.
Benny. It's not Benny Hill.
Lomas.
Benny Lomas. That's right.
Oh, the famous Benny Lomas.
Like I said,
How can we
Benny
forget
Lomas,
him?
one of the great. He's a funny man, Benny Lomas. So if you
must
get an
be.
opportunity to go and see him live in action, go and buy tickets to Benny Lomas.
That is great backtracks of all time.
Oh, jeez. That's like Jack Viney's backtrack over the weekend.
Yeah,
On
didn't
Thursday,
he
he was
backtrack?
he was a one-club player. He was definitely playing for Melbourne. By Saturday evening, we'll work it out at the end of the footy season.
Do you know what I couldn't understand in terms of the Gold Logie? That there were 2 nominated from the same show. You know, but like Bob Irwin slithered in there to get a Gold Logie nomination. I'm thinking, how can that be the case? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's 2 presenters. Surely it's a joint effort.
Well, it's a popularity contest.
I know, but like, Bob is never going to beat Julie Morris.
Yeah, I know, but you can have 2 actors from Home and Away, or Neighbours, or
You can have 2 people win the Brownlow from the same team.
No other show was
that's
represented with 2 hosts.
That's all right.
what do you think there's biased towards?
I just couldn't understand it. I thought it was a waste.
Well, maybe it shows the marketing because they are allowed to market the networks leading into it to vote for Logie winners.
7 gave a big push.
Well, 10
on
might
all their
have gave a real.
platforms.
10 might have focused. They've gone, right, let's focus this year on I'm a Celebrity, get me out. Is that the one?
Yeah.
I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here, because it'll bring a focus to the presenters and then therefore help promote next year's series.
I'm just glad that nothing against Tony Armstrong does a fantastic job. I'm
got
just
20
glad.
shows.
I'm just glad that the ABC left wing flogs didn't win anything.
Yes.
Oh, so this happened to me on the
I'm
weekend.
glad you finally got that out. I was going to say, where was the rant?
Oh, no. There was always going to
We've
be one.
gone 40 minutes. Christ almighty. We got it there. We got there today, didn't we, bros?
Oh, mate. Just before we go, I just want to talk to you two about it. Obviously, this podcast is very well known in all circles, right? As we said, very big with women, very big with women, with men, and the AFL
Well, it'd
community.
be bigger with women after the Men for All Seasons, Chad.
Correct.
I go to this sauna here in Melbourne, and I go regularly, right? And there's always this
Turkish sauna?
yeah, it's at a pool, but yeah, there's lots of Russian dudes with the hats, the furry hats and whatnot. And
They
there's
wear
this,
pants? They got
Yeah.
undies on?
yeah, undies on, yeah. So, and I always wear my Port Adelaide Speedos, always, which is just astonishing. And they're starting to wear a little bit just around around the old fella, which is good. Anyway, there's this big Russian dude. I always see him, and he's one of the ones that has a sleeve from the neck down to the ankle, almost like similar to like a Yakuza tat, I guess.
Yeah,
like where there's where there is
whole body.
There is absolutely no gaps. There's no one here, one there. It is continuous. And we've never spoken. I've seen him there for, I reckon, 12 months. Yeah. And he always looks at me. He always wears his big gold rings and stuff. So it looks like a bad dude. Anyway, I always see him.
A bit of Mel Brown about him.
Yeah, and you just walk in and just turn your eyes to the left and you just sit down. No
Very
worries.
intimidating.
Never the OCG. That's what I say, man.
So this time happened that I'd done my 20 minutes in there. Great, I was jumping out, and he happened to jump out at the same time. And as we were walking to the door, we almost kind of like ran into each other. And I was like, oh no, I've run into the big, Russian guy. And he looks at me.
Stand your ground.
Looks me up and down. I'm like, oh my God, what's he going to do?
Stand your ground.
Guess what he did?
Shoved you out of the way.
WTB, baby.
No!
I swear to God.
Did he really?
I swear.
He's a Brownie's podcast
I
listener.
swear.
Stop
I
it.
swear. In like a somewhat of a Russian accent, WTB, baby.
No, he
I
did
swear.
not.
I swear he walked out. I was like,
Were you shook?
and I looked around and no one else knows what that means in the sauna. So I looked
Yeah.
around and they were like, I'm like, this is absolutely wild.
How good is that?
That is
He'll listen to this,
fantastic.
obviously, and love it. That's magnificent. It's like our little secret code. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
A saying that you made famous.
What'd you say? We're big with men. We're big with the females now. Also now big with Russian oligarchs. They love listening to
Ibrahim
Brady's podcast.
Abramovich. You know, we're big with Putin.
Oh, that's good, bros. I'm
Yeah.
glad for you, mate.
Well, thank you for this. Dino will be back Thursday. Oh,
We got a what a
Don't
world.
you dare cut me off without saying time for
time for
What a World. Now, this is a fantastic one. This is about frugalism at its absolute best. A Japanese man retired at 45 years young. So I'm 41 this year. JB's 43.
I'm 43, yeah. I
So,
am in October.
if we do this, we might be able to retire as well. He only ate rice and vegetables for 21 years straight, right? He spent 2 decades living on a minimalistic lifestyle. His journey began in the early 2000s with a determined goal to save 100 million yen, which is approximately $640,000, and break free from the grind of corporate life. To achieve this, he drastically cut back on expenses. His frugality extended to extreme measures, such as using summer heat to cook sweet potatoes on a colleague's car windshield and living without basic comforts like air conditioner and heating. By early this year, he had successfully saved 135 million yen, around 860,000 US, surpassing his initial goal, right? But this is the kicker, because he's lived 21 years of life of absolute rot. Like, he's never had fun.
Yeah.
He's been hungry, right? The recent depreciation of the yen has significantly reduced the value of his savings, leading him to question whether the sacrifices were worthwhile. So what a world, mate. Go out and live your life.
Oh, how
that
good.
was stunning.
Righto, well done. Good what a world, Brown Dog.
See you later this week.
See you later in the week.